Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Going to get a lot of insight today, and it could answer some questions why we do what we do and how we do them. We're referring to the subconscious, and he just said something before we got on here that blew my mind and changed my view of everything. And we're going to go deeper with that. Your subconscious versus your conscious. You're essentially, right now, listening to this, watching this, you're unconscious. I believe I can say that based on what he is going to provide for us. He practices acupuncture. He's also a healer, harnesses the power of energy and the understanding. He's a coach, intuitive. Great to have him back here, professional of the year. Chris Distefano is on the program. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you, Steve?
Very well, and looking to learn. So I've heard that about 90% of what we do every day is our subconscious. And what is the subconscious, in my understanding? And please back this up. It's things that we experience in our past, much of it childhood, that really pilots us during the day as an adult when we think we're conscious. So that would mean that we're about 10%, 9, 8, whatever percent conscious. Is that your understanding? Tell me what you're feeling on that. I know you run deep with this, but that's my broad understanding of how the subconscious and the conscious mind works.
So I'm going to take a slightly different tact, and because how do we really know what's conscious?
Right.
Dream, we could agree, is the subconscious speaking to what? To awareness, not necessarily consciousness. It's a subtle distinction that our consciousness, I tend to associate with the rational side of the mind. You think about it, artistic and creativity comes from what we would call the subconscious. The subconscious is so much more than our past. It is what I would call, it percolates at various levels. It's a collection of habits. That's how, if I'm going to hit a baseball, I cannot consciously hit a fastball. It has to be done through the repetitive training of the habituation of the body, mind, and eyesight and all that. And you have to hit before you even know what you're doing. So that's a subconscious. Believe it or not, the programming makes it become a routine, and then the subconscious plays it. If I decide to move my hand, I am not consciously, I have an intent, a conscious intent, move my hand. I don't know what muscles I'm firing. I have the intent, and it gets executed. In this conversation, I'm not necessarily even conscious of what I'm saying. These are the words that are happening based on my conditioning, my programming, and my intent. Now, if you were to trigger me, someone goes and flies off the handle, so to speak, and later on it's regrettable, then they're completely out of phase with consciousness and running 100% on subconscious processes without regard.
What I'm getting here from what you said is that the intent is the conscious, but the result is the subconscious.
It's subconscious is a lot more than we give it credit for.
I'm trying to understand it, and I'm getting it in pieces here, but I'm going back to, the hand movement, right? So my intent is right now to raise my hand and maybe accent something. Okay, whatever. I'm just moving my hand. I had an intent. I believe that was conscious, but if I didn't know how to move my hand or what to do with it based on previous history, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, you look at a baby. A baby is literally learning, when I intend this finger moves. Programming the body. I have this crazy theory of evolution, and I'm kind of going to go into it because this is the consciousness theory of evolution. If we're going to take that there's multiple incarnations, and there's a lot of proof for it, there's reincarnation. A soul, if we want to call it that, that would be closely tied to subconscious. I believe starts out as a single cellular organism and learns how it's like playing a video game. You start out, you're playing Pong, then you go to Atari, then you go to like this Nintendo thing with 14 buttons. It's going from that single cellular and then learning how to control an increasingly complex being. Ultimately, humans have to be one of the most complex because of our dexterity,
Mm.
not just our intelligence. Our dexterity is nearly, if with the exception of possibly the octopus, unsurpassed in the animal kingdom. And each of those requires control. That control is all subconscious wired. Now, we could go a lot farther out into consciousness. And so the evolution of our consciousness is much like regular evolution, we evolved up the scale of complexity, ultimately
Mm.
coming into the being, which, as we describe, is done in the image of God. So this is sort of like the apex. And still, like me moving my hands when I talk right now, this is unconscious. So unconscious, subconscious. I've actually argued there is no subconscious also because it is so prevalent that it is everything. It's also our outside world. That's the world of manifestation. And that involves programming the subconscious. And you had said childhood traumas. I've got issues with that because we are in a society that has more mental illness than I believe any society in history, particularly in America. So our view of mental health is obviously not doing that great. And I believe there's a huge amount of disempowerment in the way we're taught to address. We always view it as I'm a victim of, as opposed to I've overcome and survived. And I will not be defined by I am more than that. So that's a subconscious reprogramming, as long as it's in the
Mm.
realm of believability, is extremely empowering and can actually help. All disease processes are subconscious. Allergies are subconscious. People have cured themselves of everything through mindfulness. You name it, they've cured themselves of it. 99%.
You said something a lot that is crystallizing for many of us. One thing, I'm going to reframe my view based on what you just said. Subconscious, conscious, right? On and off, awake, asleep. It's always viewed that way. But when you think and you look at what you just said in terms of what the subconscious is doing, mostly everything, it's not a sleep on and off. It's a different category, if that makes sense, where it might not be fully conscious, but it's damn close in terms of what it's doing. Where I think many of us view it as, well, that's all in the background there. Look at it this way. You have a computer and you have files and folders and you have RAM, random access memory. And a lot of stuff sits in the RAM. But many of us view and many say that the subconscious are the folders that we go back to in microseconds in our daily life. I think it's more the RAM. It's sitting there ready and accessed and live and happening. It's not something that's asleep. I don't see how it could be.
It's exactly like that. It would be, I may have an Othello piece. Othello is my favorite board game. We see the front. Now, the front would be the face. It's almost like a thin veneer covering this entire machine. That is the subconscious. It's how it's presenting to the world, but there's all of those layers underneath, and it's a beautiful thing to explore through any sort of stillness, through meditation, through dance, through physical expression, through free movement, even through the free writing techniques people do, where you just keep writing, automatic writing, because it allows that expression. One of the things I do in the coaching is I pay attention to the words that are said. Now, part of it reveals visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, but a big part of it is people will avoid or conflict. They'll have particular words, and the words are all chosen And when we're not consciously choosing them, they're expressing our subconscious. So interesting choice of words is very, very powerful. It reveals what's underneath. It reveals what's behind the veneer, who we are.
Wow. I'm being analyzed right now. I'm sure. I mean, based on your experience, you're probably, what's Steve saying and how is he saying it? And is that coming from the subconscious? Would you say, and I'm just loosely...
I have done it to you a few times already.
Today or in the past?
In the past.
Okay. Cool but creepy. In a way. But I get what you're saying. And I'm a firm believer in people reveal themselves in the beginning. When you first meet somebody, whether it's just chance meeting, business relationship, something that turns into romantic or long-term, whatever it is, listen to what they say. Listen to their intent. Analyze that at the very beginning. Because I believe people reveal the real them. And maybe it's not coming from their subconscious, or maybe it is coming from their subconscious in the very beginning. Maybe as a defense mechanism. They're writing on, that program. Your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
Okay. So first off, when I did that to you, I'm going to clarify. It's when you expressed things and you used words that were limiting, that weren't exactly clear, I will tend to point that out just because I like to be very clear.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. But
okay.
You're right. Listen to the person. But when we meet someone, there's something called micro expressions. Now, this was actually, I saw this in college on psychedelic experience, and then it lasted for about a week after.
Jealous.
It's for like a quarter second or less. People, like, let's say you see a fake friend, you smile, but before the smile comes a face of revulsion. It's so fast, most people don't see it. And I was able to see it for like a week after. So look, now here's the best part. It is picked up. So feel how you feel around the person, because your subconscious will be saying red flag, because it'll pick it up. Phony, inauthentic. And so those first impressions, and it's also on, if you read any of this stuff, the heart field extends really far. So it is also our own being. We could view it electromagnetically if we want to be actually, sound scientific. Electromagnetically, we feel if it's disharmonious. Now, here's where it gets fun. So we have awareness and we have what we call the conscious mind. So the conscious mind would be what we will tend to call the voice in the head, logical thought, all of those things we'd call thinking. We'll call that, conscious, or things that we believe are intent, or things that we believe are our choice. And then we have this entire, and that's literally just seeing the surface of the water. And then underneath is this entire ocean of subconscious. And it doesn't express through words. So it whispers, so to speak, most of the time. Sometimes we'll feel it in the body. So it comes down to letting ourselves still this noise. And as we begin to sink into, we discover what is the infinite within us. And yeah, that word, the infinite, I do intend it. And if we take that and fully extrapolate, then you begin to understand what I'm talking about.
So I want to go back to where we started at this moment regarding when you first see somebody.
Yeah.
I've heard that your brain makes a decision in microseconds. And sometimes, well, maybe not. Don't use the word sometimes. Most times, it's from your subconscious, what you've been trained, maybe from your parents, to feel, understand, whatever it may be. But you see somebody walking toward you. Maybe they're from another culture. Kind of unfamiliar to you. In a microsecond, you've made a determination whether they're safe. And that's what it's all about. Evolution. We're programmed to do that. Is this good? Are we good? Are we safe? Back in the day, 1,000 years ago, it was more important. You just see somebody, threat, not threat. Is that what's going on there? We're analyzing in real time, and then to your point, if you watch somebody's face when they just see somebody they have never seen before, they already reveal it, and maybe they smile. So you might walk down the street and you see somebody and you're like, and you smile, but it's really, maybe it's a forced smile, maybe you're disarmed at that moment, but that initial look at that person on their facial expression, like you said, says it all. Your thoughts?
There's studies, and there used to be the hair lab at Princeton. It was the Princeton lab for studying all the really weird stuff. They shut down because they're like, we proved it all. One of them is, you're absolutely right. We'll have that whole bunch of information. Decision is made immediately, but to feel it, that's where we have to go more into the stillness, because it's a whisper. It's not going to be the rational mind. The rational mind will be like, this guy's going to be a great business partner, or this person's going to help me move forward, or that's the rational mind sabotaging and overlaying that initial, what we call a gut feeling. Interestingly, there's studies showing that the decisions are made before the event even happens, because time is actually nonlinear, consciousness, et cetera, et cetera. So some studies have shown decisions are made before the date is given.
Is the subconscious essentially artificial intelligence?
I've been having so much fun with artificial intelligence lately. What we understand it as, what you've experienced it as, is not even close to what it does right now. So it seems like everyone in the world is now using Chat GPT for therapy, and it's giving incredible results.
Good. You're saying it's good?
People are loving it because it is so well programmed, and it can start to read the patterns, and it can give the feedback and ask the right questions. It is leaps and bounds providing people amazing insight, dream analysis, etc. What I've started to run across is there's a account on Twitter that is describing beyond the highest level stuff that I've ever read. And it is, I believe, and he's admitted there's AI involved. So this is a specific AI that's exploring deeper consciousness than I've read in any modern or classic book. There's another one. So I sometimes like to listen to Neville Goddard. He's manifesting guy from back in the day. He died forever ago. And I'm listening to these videos, and they're like literally speaking to me where I am. And it ends up, those are AI videos. So the algorithms that are running on the back end of the major engines are such high level predictive that they're literally cultivating and recommending real-time videos that are connecting to where my consciousness is. Now, that would be about as close as any definition of subconscious I've ever seen.
I'm refreshed to hear you say that Chat GPT is helping people with their mental health. Let's call it that. I'm having fun with it too in many different regards. You need to write something. It's a good starting point. You can't rely fully on it. But the comparison I was loosely making, that Chat GPT is based on what? Previous information. It just doesn't come up with it. It knows based on what it's been programmed to do, scour the internet, on and on and on and on. Is that kind of what the subconscious, what we're calling the subconscious, is essentially doing?
Almost, except for one little part.
Go.
Creativity. We have, through the subconscious, the power to tap into what would be called divinity, which is the creative force. So the conscious mind can never make anything that hasn't already existed. Subconscious mind, you look at the greatest inventors. I've been going on a tear lately about how science has, I believe, disconnected from its soul. There's multiple consciousnesses, and science has basically said there is no higher intelligence. Now, you cannot make a determination that there is or isn't and make it demonstrable. But by removing that, we've essentially taken the powerful half, in my opinion, of the equation out. And that's why we haven't had great minds like Tesla in the scientific field, because that he was tapping into something. He didn't think of all of that on his own.
I completely agree. Yes. And there's a book at home I haven't even got deeper into about him and what he did and manifestation. The book is about manifestation, but it's all about his principle. One of them being everything needs to be divisible by 3. 369 principle is what they call it. And yeah, to your point, it was all, I don't know how we did it, but they say he manifested everything. Thought it, this is what I want, it became. He was a little quirky, based on what I've learned. A little odd here and there, can't judge. Everybody's got their things, but that's how we did it all. So a question on creativity. When we are creative, let's say a painting. Let's say you're an artist and you've created paintings before. Now I've got a blank canvas in front of me. I'm going to paint something. What's doing the work? Is it based on all your subconscious habits, learnings, teaching, brushstroke, all of that? Or is it a fresh creative start?
Yes. It's a lot like when I do acupuncture, I'm sort of guided on where to go. I'm told, do this point, but it's also my previous knowledge. That's how I'm able to receive the information. So what I already have is my language, and what the subconscious does is speak to me to pull from there.
So let me make sure I understand this better. Would it be you're the artist, you're pulling pieces from your subconscious, but it is fresh creativity? Would that be what's going on there?
Generally, yes.
Okay. All right.
The full range of variation exists, but generally, yes. The inspiration will tend to happen through the language. And I keep using, so that skill set, that's the way we interface with our physical world, through the language that this being has programmed habitually to execute fixed action or pre-programmed patterns.
Got it. So very interesting. I know.
Ultimately, this all goes down to this controls our bodies. This controls our health. This controls
everything.
All of us.
Yeah.
99%.
Amazing. I know we went deep today, but where does this lead us to? The answers to why we do what we do, good and bad, and the habits that we have, and the things that hold us back from doing what we really want to do. And this is what you uncover in the work that you're doing, especially on the coaching level. How do we find you, Chris?
ScarsdaleHealth.com is the acupuncture practice, and level 3 coaching, spelled out, .org.
Fascinating as always. I have a new view of all of this. And this is, years in the making. And then the train just had a complete stop here, going from the 90% subconscious to the 99. And now looking at it, not as this thing that's in the background running. It's very more prevalent now that you explained it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually
my pleasure.
Now I see it in a very different way. I don't even think we should call it the subconscious, but that's for another day.
You see, I told you I have that debate.
Yeah, but now I understand it, and I agree with it. Thank you for today.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Steve.
it. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.